Looks like we are live. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this Thursday episode of Crypto with Chris. Just kind of wanted to do a quick breakdown. Not a ton going on today, but I wanted to kind of look at some support levels that have come up that, over the past few days as we go into the weekend and see what I'll be paying attention to until next Monday. So let's start with Bitcoin. Basically, everything kind of just ran up this past week. Bitcoin ran early and then alts basically played catch up, so Bitcoin ran up, kind of peaked out at the top of this range here and has gone sideways since then, waiting for its moving averages to catch up, which is nice. And meanwhile, alts have just kind of gone crazy. And then today, everything is basically stopped. Not everything, but most things. So what that looks like is, well, let's kind of zoom out to the weekly here, first of all. I had this range here drawn from this monthly level, right here from this monthly candle body, and it pretty much just ran into the brick wall there. It did wick above it on the weekly level, but it doesn't, I'll kind of be surprised if it closes above it. I'm not expecting it to, but elsewhere, it was nice to see this happening down here, like these moving averages tick back up, this bull market support band tick back up. They haven't quite crossed over. The green hasn't quite crossed over the red. Like if we take the support band out of the picture, we're getting close. I'll be really excited once we see that. I think that's going to be kind of a really strong signal. It's not quite there yet, but it's very close on the weekly, and that's definitely what I want to see. And then the support band, same kind of thing. Actually, let's look at just the support band on its own, because that's relevant too. So the support band, what I'm looking for here on this crossover is the 21-week EMA crossing back up over the 20-week SMA. I think that's going to be also a bullish signal, to kind of coincide with the other one I just mentioned. But these are the two kind of final reversal indicators that I'm looking for on the weekly time frame. So that's that's what I'm paying attention to, and I think that's going to be important. But in terms of where I think we're going to go price wise in the next few days, that's irrelevant. I think once this weekly candle closes, regardless of where it closes, unless it like nukes back down, we're going to get crossovers on both of these, no matter what, basically. It's just sort of a matter of when and not if. But if we go back to the daily, so yeah, first looking at Bitcoin, sideways. And I remember saying on Monday, there's a couple things that could either happen. One, we'll just get rejected off of this, and we're going to come back down to this middle area or even the lower area as a sort of mean reversion, as a technical mean reversion. Or conversely, we could go sideways and wait for the moving averages to catch up to it. And that's actually what has happened. And that's really the better option of the two. That's the better signal of the two. So that's nice to see. Right now, it's kind of holding support on the 10-day moving average. To me, that's less relevant. I mean, ultimately, I'm kind of looking at the middle of this range as kind of the sort of primary support level that I'm paying attention to. Yeah, obviously, if it holds this, that'll be nice. But whatever. I'm kind of not expecting it to. I feel like it's still a little bit overheated on the weekly and on the daily level, and so it needs to kind of reset again, whether that means going sideways or coming back down to here. But I'm not going to be at all surprised if it does come back down to the middle of this range at this point, or lower, of course. But that's what I'm looking at here. So the next thing I want to get into is, like I said, Bitcoin came up here and has gone sideways. And I was really surprised pleasantly to see alts really just run after that. It's like, I don't know if just a bunch of people took money out of these profits, out of this run here, and just turned around and dumped them right into alts. Because like if we look at dominance, it's done pretty well. Like others' dominance here specifically. Remember, I said on Monday it poked back through. It set a new higher high for the year, and so far it's held it on this weekly time frame. And it actually, punched up pretty good above it for a minute. But kind of what we're looking at, if we zoom in a bit, is we can see this is that sort of bit of a tick up on the others' dominance, and then conversely a tick down on Bitcoin at the same time. So meanwhile, ETH didn't really do great. It did okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it went up, but not as much as I think some of these other alts did. And actually, well, we can just kind of zip through a few of them here and look at what that looks like. Like if we look at ETH on the weekly, yeah, ETH was just kind of meh. I mean, it's basically even on the week, sort of like Bitcoin. And if we look at it against Bitcoin, I bet it's even down on the week. Yeah, so not great. But some of the big winners were Solana, like I had touched on, and I wanted to look at both of these charts, both the USD and the BTC pair, because they're both interesting. They both had big ranges that they were coming into, that they punched way up into. Here, let me get rid of this, just get some more screen area here. But yeah, so as we can see, Solana punched back up into this range, punched back up through the mid range, and basically just immediately tapped out at the top. I mean, it basically got within 20 or 30 cents of it or something like that. So again, brick wall, resistance level, not surprised, because I mean, it was here, it was also here. So I was not surprised to see that. I was totally expecting it, in fact, but it kind of did exactly what I was expecting it to. So that's fine. That's just how charts work, especially when something got sort of as overheated as it did. But generally, this is good. This is bullish. Just like everything else at this point, we're starting to kind of see red across the board now with everything that's been pumping. But nevertheless, you can sort of see, if you kind of go back to the Bitcoin chart, when did it sort of peak out? So 24th, kind of 23rd, 24th, 25th ish. And then if we go to Solana, it's like it was going sideways, while Bitcoin was doing its pump. And then as soon as Bitcoin stopped, all these alts just took off, and went on this big run. So again, yeah, kind of similar levels, like I just pointed out on the Bitcoin chart, but basically we're seeing the moving averages catch up to it, although it's still pretty overextended. So again, kind of just textbook, we're looking for it to come back to either the middle of this range, which I wouldn't be surprised to see, and let these moving averages catch up to it. Again, I'm not really going to pay as much attention to the moving averages in this scenario right now, especially when it's still sort of in a very strong defined trend and isn't going sideways. So I'm going to be looking at these levels here, these horizontal levels, basically. Obviously, if it closes above this resistance level, that's very bullish. I'd like to see it hit support on the middle of this range at around 33, 34. And then if it closes below that, that's not a great sign. That's kind of ugly at that point. So what I'm going to be looking for over the coming days is everything's going to generally cool off. Ideally, it goes sideways or above, but I'm going to expect it to kind of come back down to this range, and then to the middle. And then if we look at it on the Bitcoin pair, very similar. It actually blew way through the top of this range that it had defined. So that was even better, better looking from that standpoint. And that, I think that opened a lot of people's eyes, how this is really just kind of holding strong against Bitcoin and pushing up to new levels. So really at this point, I mean, yes, it's back in this range. It would be very cool if it could close the week out above this range, but probably I'm not going to expect that either. So, right now it's sort of at this same level here, from this ray. So I don't know. We'll see. The next level up for me is going to be this cluster right here, obviously. But we'll just see. I think it's going to be a minute before it gets up to there still. So I'm going to look to kind of see how it performs over the coming days in this area right here. Does it hold above it? Does it close above it? Does it come back down and touch it? Let's take a look at it on the daily and kind of see what that looks like too. So yeah, again, I mean, wick up above it on 2 daily levels in a row. That's nice to see, even though it's in the red today. That's still nice to see that it did poke above it again. But we do have these moving averages creeping up now, so maybe it'll bounce off some of these. If it's in a strong trend, generally you're going to see it kind of hold these moving averages and bounce off the averages. But I don't know. We'll see. It's going to obviously depend somewhat on what Bitcoin does too, given this is the Bitcoin pair. But similar take on the Bitcoin pair. I'm going to be looking to see where it falls within this spot right here. BitTensor's another one. I'm just going to kind of go through my quick little short list of alts that I'm playing with at the moment. BitTensor looks really strong, actually. I mean, it had this big whale come in and, buy a bunch right here. And I kind of figured it would roll back over. I just was expecting it to. Also, we got this strong sell signal here, but it just kept going. And they've got a lot of good things going on. Like I said, they basically broke out of this range is, I think, defined by weekly candles, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So I had drawn this range off of this weekly candle body here and these weekly candle bodies here. And it just blew right through. So that's great to see. That's, I think, a really strong development. And it's basically pushing towards, it had kind of a local top here at 94, 94.29. So it's kind of coming up to that again. That's kind of going to be the next resistance level, and that's what I'll be paying attention to. But it's looking really strong right now, and it's got a ton of momentum. We're also, if you notice too, looking at this bull market support band, we've got the 21 about to cross over the 20 also. So that's really strong to see too. And then I know there's not a ton of chart history for weekly wise, but the 10 is getting close to the 20 also. It's still on the bottom side of it, but it's moving up, it's inching up, so that's good. This is showing a lot of strength. It's funny, like in terms of like a larger, higher time frame macro sort of trend reversal, it's still not quite there. I mean, obviously with price blowing through these moving averages, that's going to quickly change that, but it still has yet to technically happen. So, and also it's pretty cooked right now. I mean, these are huge candles, weekly candles. So it too needs a bit of a reset. I don't know if I have an RSI on here. No. Whatever. I'm not going to add it, but yeah, it's obviously it's cooked. It's more than, it's way outside the top of the bands. It's more than 2 standard deviations, overbought on the weekly time frame. So that right there is kind of all you need to know. It needs to kind of settle down a little bit, as does pretty much everything. It's all kind of hot right now. And sentiment is high. Like I think real quick, I don't have it you can't see it on my screen, but fear and greed index kicked up to like 72 or something like that. So, it's a little frothy right now for sure. I mean, yes, it can go some more, but it's definitely, it's on the high side. So just kind of real quick, 0x0.ai. This one was not as exciting as some of these other ones, but it held its strength. It's still technically in an uptrend. It held its strength against Bitcoin too. So that's kind of what you look for. Injective was one that really, it was like Solana this week. It was major pumping this week, had a great week. Last week and this week. So yeah. And this is a bigger market cap one too. So this was really good to see. This was, it had kind of come back down and was hugging along these moving averages, hugging along this band, same thing on the Bitcoin pair. And then boom, just like Solana. I mean, it really took off and has kind of held that. So I was really pleased to see that. This is just a good looking chart. I mean, honestly, yeah. And so, yeah, it's kind of, I don't have a range sort of defined on this. It had been in this kind of consolidation phase and it just really broke out. I mean, you could draw kind of, this is the top of it here. This is sort of the breakout level kind of right in here. But yeah, that's really what you want to see. And I'm holding steady on this one. Caspa's another one that kind of just meandered sideways. Doesn't look great on the Bitcoin pair, honestly. But it was fairly overextended on the Bitcoin pair also. So right now it's kind of coming down to not a make or break level. I mean, with these micro caps, it's kind of tough to say make or break because they're so volatile and they can move so much in such a short amount of time. But ideally, you don't want it to see it start trading below this band area on the Bitcoin pair. So it's good to see that it's kind of holding steady on the USD pair and continuing to, well, I mean, it's pushing higher highs. It's still technically pushing higher highs. In fact, what do we got here? Let's look at this on the daily real quick. I mean, yeah. So here's our local top. Let me just kind of draw that line here. Okay. Well, I mean, it's close. It's hovering. On the daily. It looks okay. Definitely want to see it hold this 20-week or 20-day rather as support. But we shall see. Rio's another one very similar to this last chart, to Caspa. Rio is. in that it's just been kind of holding steady, going sideways. It did break down below the bands on the Bitcoin pair, but it has since poked back above them. So that's good to see. Zero Knowledge Network. This one got really overextended. I touched on this one last week. This one had several, I think it had like 7 days in this sort of 2-week span right here. It had 7 days of plus 20% gains. And then 3 of those 7 days were like plus 40%. One of them was even 50. So it was definitely overcooked. And I was expecting, so this level here, this red level is sort of the breakout level based on these other wicks back here. So kind of needed to come back down and touch support here. Obviously, I'm going to hope that it bounces off of this level, but it's got one more safety net below that on the 20-day moving average. So hopefully it holds that at least, although the 20-day is quickly catching up to it. So, within another day or two, we're going to be right there at this level, and it's all going to sort of coalesce. But don't want to see it break down too much below that. I think that, especially with a smaller project like this is, and then on the Bitcoin pair, same kind of deal. Just you don't want to see it lose this moving average. It's almost identical, really, between the two of them, the Bitcoin pair and the USD pair. The breakout level was a little bit different. It got a little bit higher on the USD pair. And I think lastly, this Ator protocol, this is also, I think, a really good looking chart too. And it had a good week also. It's, punched up the last few days and actually set a higher high. It's continuing to just set a series of higher highs and higher lows. And it's been in basically an uptrend its entire existence, which is great. So, its entire very short existence, but nevertheless, I'll take it. So yeah, just keep doing what it's doing. I hope, keep bouncing off these moving averages and keep going higher and higher. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably about it. There's not, crypto land. There's not much going on. As you can see from my watch list here, everything's in the red today. Everything got overheated. On the macro side, some kind of wild stuff is happening with the dollar and with the stock markets. Everything is, the dollar's going down today. But it's had a pretty wide swing today, and then stocks are just kind of ripping across the board. Even this, like if you look at just this futures chart for S&P, it's pumping hard today. So stocks are kind of doing their own separate thing today than crypto is, and liquidity is ticking up on the day. But I think liquidity actually is going to continue to keep rolling over. It sort of seems like. I don't know what's going on with the dollar. I thought it was going to break down at this point here, and it just rebounded again. So it's hard to gauge what's going on in terms of how this is going to impact the crypto market, because I would think based on what stocks are doing and what the dollar is doing, crypto should be pumping too, and it's not. So maybe it's going to, maybe because it got so overheated this past week, it's just having a technical sort of breather, like I'm saying, and its time will come. But right now, it's just kind of, again, everything is catching its breath. Everything is a little bit down on the day. Not surprised at all, not worried at all. This is kind of healthy and to be expected. So that's really all I'm paying attention to. So I think I laid out sort of my support levels for going into the weekend, and hopefully come Monday, they will have come down and either touch those support levels, or the moving averages will have come up to sort of meet price in that time frame. And hopefully next week is as good as this past week. So we shall see. All right. I guess on that note, have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.